Hi, welcome to the Libertarian Alternative. My name is Mark Selzer, and the Libertarian Alternative is an educational television show brought to your community as a service by the Libertarian Party. Today's guest is two-time presidential candidate for the Libertarian Party, Harry Browne. Harry, it's always wonderful to have you on the show. You are my favorite guest, I think. I don't think I've had any other guest that I've enjoyed more.
Well, thank you.
So, since you've run for president, there have been twice, in 2000 and 2004. No, it was 98 and then 2000.
96
and 2000. It's late at night. There have been some other issues that have come and gone.
Sure.
You know, we had another presidential candidate after you has already run his race, and certain things are going on. Right now, we're looking at impending elections, or so-called elections, in Iraq. What do you think about, I kind of feel, when I have this funny feeling when I listen to the news and watch the news, that maybe what I'm being told isn't the whole story. It's a creeping suspicion. Do you have any insight into that?
Well, one of the funny things about it is that President Bush keeps saying, you know, this historic thing that's going on in Iraq, this amazing thing of bringing democracy to the Middle East. And there are several things that can be said about it. Number one, this is not the first election they've ever had in Iraq. They held elections all the time Saddam Hussein was in power. They had elections every 2 years or so. And there were certain restrictions. I mean, he was not going to be voted out of office. You knew that. But they had a parliament, and the parliament actually passed the laws that had to do with the day-to-day operation of the country. Mm-hmm. And there's no reason to believe that Iraq is going to be any freer as a result of these elections than it was under Saddam Hussein. In fact, the second thing is that this is very much like what happened at the end of World War II. The Soviets liberated Poland, liberated Czechoslovakia, Romania, and all these Eastern European countries, and held elections. And lo and behold, all the winning parties in all these countries were pro-Soviet. You know? Aha! And we're talking here on Saturday night, the night before the elections, and I don't know how soon it is the results are going to be published, but if I were a bookmaker, I would give very, very short odds on the Alawi government party winning the majority of the seats or the largest number of seats. And if you wanted to bet against that, I'd probably be willing to give you 30 or 40 to 1 odds, because it's a long shot that this is not going to turn out to be a satellite of the United States of America.
Right. So is there restrictions on who can get on the ballot over there that you know of?
No, there are, as I understand it, 270 parties that are registered. And what they do, it's a little different even from Parliament in Britain or someplace like that, in that each of the parties has a list of 100 candidates, and all the people do is vote for a party, and then proportionately the parliament is allocated according to the vote that the party's got. And if your party won 5 seats, then they take the first 5 names off of the list of 100. And you know, if you got 15 seats, then the first 15 come. And so the names really mean nothing, and in fact they withheld the names of the people on the slates
until 2 weeks before. They're afraid of death threats.
Right, they didn't want to be killed. Another interesting thing about it is that George Bush, just 2 or 3 days ago, I can't remember what day it was, in a press conference said, I want to urge the Iraqi people to get out and vote. I want you to defy the terrorists and vote. In other words, this would be a big victory for me if you would just get out and turn out good. So climb over those dead bodies and make it to the polls and vote for me. And I really hate to make fun of this, because it grieves me every time somebody dies over there. It really does. And that's what bothers me most about all of this, is that people are dying. And we can argue about weapons, we can argue about this and that, but thousands, tens of thousands of people have died. Their lives have been snuffed out, Americans, Iraqis, and it just grieves me to think that these people, their families, all of this devastation and loss. I mean, just imagine if suddenly your house were were destroyed as so many houses were in Fallujah. Just imagine if your 8-year-old child suddenly died or lost his arm or something. And that's what this is, that's what war is.
Yeah, I look at the losses too of, our American servicemen, and I really want a clearer mission before I go risking their lives over there. And you talk about, what is it that we're accomplishing over there? What is it that we're going to gain?
Absolutely nothing. There once was a democracy, not in Iraq but in Iran. And in 1953, the CIA engineered a coup in Tehran to overthrow the democratic government of Iran. And so when President Bush talks about bringing democracy to the Middle East, he ought to spend a little time with history and find out that the only reason there wasn't a democracy there was because of the United States foreign policy.
And you talked about Russia and how these elections are very similar to the elections in the Russian satellite countries. When I look at this too, I see a supposed conservative administration going and seizing the means of production in Iraq, the oil fields, and then using that money to put everyone in Iraq on some kind of social program.
Yeah.
And so they've seized the means of production, and now they're redistributing the wealth. They even wanted to build a $500 million hospital in Iraq to bring Hillary care to the people of Iraq, and the Democrats complained, saying it was too expensive. How far to the left does the Republican Party now have to be where the Democrats are saying, whoa, hold on there, comrade.
Fiscally irresponsible.
Let's bring the socialist utopia to America first before we start spreading it around the world. And I've seen various estimates on the cost of this per American, and that's at $5,000 each to $8,000 per taxpayer in the United States. And this is a new entitlement. The people of Iraq are now entitled to democracy.
Of course they're entitled. We destroyed all this stuff. Most people are not aware that Iraq was one of the most advanced countries, probably the most advanced country in the Middle East, more so than Saudi Arabia or any of the others. They had tremendous hospitals and medical care, and people would come from all over the Middle East and even from East Asia to come to Iraq to be treated for rare diseases and so on. They had a great education system and so forth as far as those things go. And so George Bush, congratulating himself and the military on building these facilities, rebuilding these schools and so on, none of that would be necessary if it hadn't been for the bombs and so on. And worse than anything else, of course, is that this kind of arrogance is creating more terrorists around the world. And there is just an absolute refusal, not just in the Bush administration, but in the Clinton administration, in the Carter administration, the Reagan administration, just going all the way back to Harry Truman, to think that any of this is going to create this kind of terrorism. And back in '96 and 2000 when I was running, and I wasn't the first, I'm sure, as part of the Libertarian platform, that we condemned these foreign adventures because we knew that they could lead to terrorism in the United States. And then in 2001 it happens, and everybody acts as though September 11, 2001 was the beginning of history, that nothing happened before that. It's like Pearl Harbor. Everybody knows the Japanese attacked on December 7th, 1941. Practically no one knows what happened in 1940 and 1941 to make the Japanese want to attack. And it doesn't make it right that they killed people any more than it makes it right that Osama bin Laden killed people. But if we don't understand why they did, we can just expect it to happen over and over and over again.
Yeah, I think we're creating an awful lot of